This is your home for St. Cloud State hockey, keeping you up to date on the NCHC.
One-timer coming, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Pervix!
Women's WCHA.
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies alongside
The National Hockey League.
Dwayne Kaprizov in for a chance to win it! He scores! Kirill, the thrill is for real! Welcome to the NHL, a game winner!
And everything from the state of hockey.
St. Cloud Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.
Welcome to the Huskies Warming House Podcast Den.
And welcome into episode number 138 here on the Huskies Warming House podcast. Noah Grant, that's me, joined by Nick Maxon, who, Nick, say hi to the folks here.
That's me, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you want to be me, you can. We could switch it up. That's fine. You would probably do
I don't
a better.
I don't think you'd want to be me. We'll split it to you that way.
You do a better job being me than I would being you. That's a tough task to tackle. You've got a lot of intricacies that I can't match, and in a good way. You're like the Boston Bruins player vetting team, except the opposite.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
They're so badly intricate, and you're the opposite of that, right? So,
Sure, we'll go with that.
We're going to talk about the Boston Bruins in our Huskies Illustrated Weekly Roundup. Yay, exciting. Hockey Canada news is in there too as well. Yay, exciting.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, just amazing. It should be very quick though. What won't be quick, we'll recap a lot of what's going on around men's hockey this week here. Of course, men's hockey was in Colorado College for St. Cloud this week. Women's hockey was off this week. They'll be in Lindenwood this upcoming Thanksgiving week here. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then probably some more in-depth Minnesota Wild talk this week. It's been a while since we've really gotten a chance to focus on the Wild a little bit. So we get to talk about them. And of course, a very exciting game that they had last night, if you're listening to us on Sunday, with Alex Goligoski's Silver Stick celebration. And then the extra ice session, we're just going to talk about a smorgasbord of things. Twins got new jerseys. Reverse retros are finally out for the Wild and available to buy. And they laid an absolute... Yeah, and they laid an absolute egg in that hockey game when they wore them. It's fine. But with that being said, we're going to start and hopefully not lay an egg ourselves with Center Ice View news and notes in the Huskies Illustrated Weekly Roundup.
Center Ice View news and notes. Center Ice View provides you with the best coverage of St. Cloud State Huskies hockey, from game notes, recaps, photos, and more. Go to centericeview.com.
Story of the day, Noah, that we don't want to have to continue to talk about, but the Boston Bruins force us to do it. And that is, they have hired a law firm led by former U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch. And effectively what they want her to do is to review their player vetting process. This is, of course, coming after signing Mitchell Miller, and then was quickly rescinded / bought out / we don't really know for sure. Either way, what we think we know was that a contract was signed and filed with the NHL Central Registry, and let's just say there's discussions on whether or how to handle that per se. But the Boston Bruins are more interested in trying to figure out how the pen went to paper in the first place. So the law firm that Lynch represents is Paul Weiss, Rifkind, Warden, and Garrison. Try to say that 3 times fast to conduct an independent review of the process. No, can we just say the quiet part out loud? Is this just the Boston Bruins doing this for the sake of being transparent when we all know who's at fault here? We all know exactly who's at fault here.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit weird that they have to review their player vetting process, considering that it's a pretty standard thing. You know, the only other team that really has had issues with this per se is the Arizona Coyotes during their draft a couple of years ago, when they were kind of hands-on literally with players, and they weren't allowed to be. I guess, and of course, Mitchell Miller was a part of that too. Funny how that works, huh, Nick? But yeah, it's a weird move. I don't really understand. You know, the thing that sucks too, as much as I am not a Boston Bruins fan and I cannot stand their broadcast team led by Jack Edwards, it is absolutely terrible. The Bruins themselves are a really good hockey team. In fact, they're approaching on the potential record for like best start at home. I believe they're still undefeated at home at the time of recording. I think it's 11 wins or something like that, and they're like 16-2 or something. Like
They're a wagon.
Yeah, they're a good hockey team. So
Yep.
it's weird. I don't really. I'm curious to see what comes out of it. But honestly, Bruins messed up. Like plain and simple. They
Yep.
kind of need to move on. It's and they're going to end up paying Mitchell Miller some money, like you mentioned, in some way, shape, or form. It's kind of messy, and this really doesn't really save as much face as I think they want it to do.
No, it's certainly a PR control move. It certainly is giving the impression that we didn't know where the breakdown was, even though everybody in hockey knows exactly where the breakdown was. It's kind of funny in like the worst way possible, just because it's like you're trying to say we don't know where the problem is, but clearly you know exactly where the problem is.
Yeah. Wasn't it weird when Cam Neely came out and he was essentially like, yeah, you know, we'll have to talk with, you know, our player vetting people and we'll have to look at that process and that sort of thing. Like you scouted the guy for like 2 months and were in constant contact with him. Don't tell me you all weren't communicating and then went, wow, the public didn't like this. We don't know what happened. You know damn well what happened.
You know damn well what happened. And don't tell me that you did not know the story of Mitchell Miller. I mean, it's been well documented. Again, a quick Google search. If you really were in that proverbial, you know, shall we say, boardroom bubble. But I would have a very difficult time to believe that the Boston Bruins, who, mind you, were also at the seat of a certain draft table, and Mitchell Miller was drafted and then quickly was, shall we say, rescinded that draft pick. Don't tell me they weren't aware of that situation.
The only way that it could not, you know, that I could see them not having any responsibility is when you mentioned Google. If they were using Internet Explorer 9, they might not have the information yet. So
that, or what was it, Safari?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I use Safari.
Firefox. I'm just trying to name any sort of what's Netscape. That's the retired one.
Firefox is still a thing. Although the problem with Firefox is they got rid of the Fox. Now it's just Fire. You know,
I know,
like
it's weird.
It's an issue. You know, maybe they should talk about their internet graphics vetting team and probably hire a law firm for that.
They might, because you know, at the end of the day, that was a horrendous PR move to get rid of the Fox. Myself included. But anyway, so be curious to see what the Bruins do in the wake of when that report or when their findings are completed, because effectively I think that's sort of what they want to have happen, is for there to be an investigation, lay out the steps that were missed and hold certain people accountable that are AKA not Cam Neely, not any sort of ownership, and people who actually,
And they'll drop it a day after Christmas or a day before New Year's.
Yeah. Right. Speaking of which, let's, for more wonderful news around hockey, as you mentioned, Hockey Canada back on the news. And this goes back to an older board member. This is Senior Vice President of Strategy, Pat McLaughlin, as he was testifying Tuesday of this past week that the organization has paid now close to $1.6 million to crisis management firm Navigator. This going back to July of this year, but emphasizing that, again, because Hockey Canada does receive public funds, that none of the public money was used in this payment for, again, crisis management. And if I remember correctly, Noah, Navigator, I believe, is a PR crisis management firm. So
I think so. We
go back to this again, right? So this is where the former board member comes into play. So we're going back to
mid-2010s.
Mid-2010s. And I guess old head coach Bob Nicholson, who's now with the Edmonton Oilers organization, essentially just said sorry for the lack of guidelines in handling sexual abuse. He's now the chairman of the Edmonton Oilers, so pretty high up there. Said he only learned the situation that Hockey Canada has been essentially under the gun for at the NHL draft lottery, and it had not been contacted by police himself. Nicholson left Hockey Canada in 2014 before he just recently retired at the end of June. Honestly, I don't know, Noah. I think this is still, speaking of crisis management, this is still part of that whole process to me, where you're still trying to tell the folks that, hey, If you follow the money, another $1.6 million has gone out our door. And just to make sure this is not public money. And
I mean, I don't know. I could see it not being public funds. $1.6 million to a group like that really isn't that much money. Like, let's be honest.
No, and the bigger key.
Yeah, the only reason I threw it in there is honestly those were only 2 updates that we've had since, this piece that have been somewhat notable, I guess. Like, just kind of keeping people in the loop. I'm not really sure. Now, could they have used public funds? Yeah, absolutely. But that, again, it still doesn't go back to we're kind of past that in some senses, right? We're just the deeper issue. It's the proceedings really haven't moved along as much because, like Bob Nicholson, not to say he couldn't have put a better framework in place when he was there, but it really doesn't involve him, unless he was there back in 2003 when this other issue came out. But again,
there's a false precedent set there, though, Noah. That assumes that whether guidelines are in place or not, that also assumes they get followed. How many times we've had the conversation about victims of sexual abuse, whether it's in universities or organizations like this, where there are guidelines there and they still aren't followed. Right?
I think where I was going with that is just like, I don't know how much of a role he had to play, and I don't know how much he had to offer in the proceedings. But I thought, it was interesting. I mean, he did speak, and it sounded the most remorseful out of more than many people that have been on that stand.
You beat me to the punch. I think for someone to essentially go up there and at least apologize, it like I said, does it move the needle? No, not really. It's too late for that. The fact that he's sort of trying to say that he wished there were more guidelines or any guidelines, again, like at the end of the day, doesn't it come down to just being a decent freaking human being?
Wouldn't you think?
I don't know. I have no idea what that is anymore, honestly. So,
well, let's talk about decent human beings who are no longer with the Minnesota Wild. Second to last topic here, waiver wire. Tyson Jost, placed on waivers by Minnesota, was claimed by the Buffalo Sabres the other day. So Tyson Jost, wishing him the best of luck in Buffalo. The Sabres looking for a bit of a turnaround after a hot start. They've only won 2 of their last 7, I believe, or lost 7 straight, I think. So
they have.
Injury wire. We have a lot to talk about this week. Our final topic here, Winnipeg's Nikolai Ehlers undergoing sports hernia surgery. There is no timetable for his return. Usually hernia surgeries are like 6 weeks, maybe 8 if you have complications. Generally, it kind of depends on where the hernia is.
Not to mention the recovery time too. So to get back to game speed.
Yeah. So I would say for sure, probably through maybe like New Year's Day is maybe a good timetable for him. Maybe he might be down for
February.
I don't know about that late.
Well, it's not just the recovery process from the injury, and like you said, depending on where it is, he may be limited in his workout. So it's because it's including the conditioning stints and everything else. I still think you're looking closer to end of January, beginning of February.
Yeah, I'd say early to mid-January, but nonetheless, we'll see. We'll see who's right. Someone vote on it. I don't know. Speaking of the Buffalo Sabres, netminder Eric Comrie is expected to miss multiple weeks with a lower body injury. That's a tough loss for them.
That doesn't help. Nope.
Jonathan Drouin and the Montreal Canadiens. He's out 4 to 6 with an upper body injury. Patrick Laine sprained ankle again for Columbus, out at least a month. So the Jackets
cannot stay healthy.
The Jackets cannot stay healthy. It's been a tough time for Columbus. I think we were talking with a friend who we randomly have a Columbus Blue Jackets fan that's literally from Columbus that's here in Minot, and he was saying it's like $41 or $44 million in cap hit for injury right now on that team. Not very good. Of course, Zach Werenski out for basically the year with the one last week, which is really tough for them. Another team who can't catch a break, Toronto. Jake Muzzin out indefinitely with cervical spine injury, and TJ Brody's going to miss at least 2 weeks for the Leafs. So they've
their best defenseman, their second pairing, basically. Oh, God.
They've actually been doing pretty decent without that and their goaltending issues and injuries there. Of course, Matt Murray's only played 1 game for the Leafs so far, so it's been difficult for them. Their counterpart on the other side, the Ottawa Senators, Thomas Chabot, has been out at least a week with a concussion, still has not returned. The Sens have only won 2 of their last 7. They've really struggled in the past 2 weeks. Marc-Andre Fleury in Minnesota will miss at least a week due to upper body injury for the Wild. Hopefully can return sometime around Thanksgiving next week.
Yeah, I think, dare I say, because it was sort of like he was practicing and then he went off early. I think this move was more precautionary than
Yeah.
anything. So I know that whenever you put someone on IR officially, right? There's a lot of chitter chatter about, how serious is it? Are they downplay it? You got to remember what Fleury's 37,
Yeah.
right? 37. So, and shall we say, let's say this. Let's troll some people right now, because why not? Philip Gustafson is an NHL goaltender. Is he a starting goaltender? No. The Wild know that, and so anytime that you see Marc-Andre Fleury that probably needs a rest, need to be cautionary, because you don't want to turn something that is a week into multiple weeks, or say the rest of the season.
Yeah, certainly have to take a look. We'll talk about the Minnesota Wild at the tail end of the main portion of the show. Stick around for that. We'll have a little bit more in-depth conversation this week. Dallas Stars, the former Minnesota North Stars. Yep, threw that one in there. Goaltender Scott Wedgwood is day-to-day. That back ailment, his back kind of seized up in that game. That's tough. I've had that happen, and it's not a fun experience. He was stretchered off against the Panthers, and they're going to be missing him for, I would say, probably the better part of this week. So hopefully he's able to return back to form. Certainly helps Jake Ottinger still healthy.
Was a scary situation, and it was, I think, later that night, if not the next morning, where the tests came back negative for, shall we say, more serious things that they checked for. So good to know that, relatively minor, all things considering, especially how the situation unfolded. So good to see that he's all right for the most part. Obviously still needs time to heal, but good to see that it's nothing too serious.
And welcome into the main portion of the show, episode 138. Nick Maxon alongside myself, Noah Grant, coming to you on this Sunday. Normal time this week. Next week, tentatively scheduled for next Sunday. Nick has some traveling plans. He'll be on vacation, so we'll have to hopefully keep people updated. We'll have to see how the internet connection is down in Puerto Rico, I think, right? Is that where you're headed? So,
somewhere. I just do what I'm told.
What does that mean?
That means I hop on a plane and wherever it takes me, sure.
Okay, I think it's Puerto Rico. We'll have to see how the internet connection is down there. Our hope, at least at some point next week, is to kind of take a look. There's a lot of non-conference games coming up this Thanksgiving week, so talk a little bit about the conference standings for a lot of these, of course, Division I conferences. On the men's side, St. Cloud is off this upcoming week, so that makes things a little bit easier for us to do that as well, too. So we'll keep you updated. We'll try to do our best. If something doesn't happen, we might take a week off for Thanksgiving if things don't work out appropriately, but we're going to try to do a show as best as we can, and that's all the math that I'm telling myself that I can do, apparently, since we're following orders here. As far as the men are concerned, though, we did have plenty of conference action to get to, and again, some more topsy-turvy splits in a lot of the college hockey world. Starting off with the Big Ten, as always, Notre Dame and Ohio State. This was a split here. Ohio State 5-2 victory on the first night, and then Notre Dame another 1-0 victory for them on Saturday. They continue to kind of put these really defensive juggernaut style games together. I don't really know how to get a read on this Notre Dame or Ohio State team for this matter. They've both been kind of middle of the pack, up and down. Is that fair to say?
Well, that's fair. It's been a pogo stick / roller coaster, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, I would love to see a pogo stick on a roller coaster. Do they have those?
Yeah, right.
Do they have those in Puerto Rico? I think that'd be sick.
They don't.
Well, I guess Nick's going to have to join us from a conventional place like a hotel or something. Minnesota and Michigan Thursday, Friday. The U of M, a sweep here pretty decisively, actually. 5-2 and 6-3. This Gopher team rebounding very nicely, although Michigan
shorthanded.
Very shorthanded. In fact, their third string goaltender was playing fourth line left wing on that Thursday night. So
I hear our old friend Dave Starman did that for the Toronto Maple Leafs back in the day. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting too is I forget which one of their defenders is it. Holtz, I think. He's actually in the ICU right now. Michigan's had this wave of respiratory issues. They've called it a flu-like illness. Judging by ventilation and what I know about ICUs, it's probably COVID. The only other thing that you could point to is maybe the RSV wave that's come around, but for a
So
young,
huge at that too, yeah.
right, but for a young, healthy adult, the etiology doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It'd be pretty shocking to see an entire team get RSV like that. That's young and healthy. Usually it's reserved for infants and the elderly. So COVID is probably what the actual underlying cause is there. But Michigan put together a formidable effort, rolling basically 2 lines and change, especially on that first night. So, what do you take away from this series?
I think you take away that the Gophers have that killer instinct. That despite Michigan being shorthanded, despite the fact that Michigan also, when fully healthy, is a still pretty good hockey team, Minnesota didn't rest on its laurels. They didn't go in there lackadaisical. They took care of business, and that's what you want to see if you're a Gopher fan, right? You want to see them not show any sort of mercy. And as you mentioned, this was a series where Michigan was never in it. They really weren't. Minnesota controlled every facet of the game. The scoreboard reflected that. And you can't control the cards that are dealt to your opponent. You can control how you, shall we say, look at it with either a clear, shall we say, scope or a clouded one. And they chose to say, well, this is what it is. It doesn't change who we are. We need to go out and execute what we need to do, because at the end of the day, we still need the W's in the win column.
Yeah, crucial couple of points for Big Ten standings could certainly make a difference towards the end of the season. Moving over to the other side of Michigan, by the way, Nick, Michigan State, Penn State. What a topsy-turvy series this was. Penn State 4-3 victory on Friday night, and then Michigan State a 7-3 victory last night on Saturday. We knew this Penn State team has had some get up and go this year. I think we've been sleeping a little bit on this Michigan State team, who has really kind of had a nice little push in the past couple of weeks. Now, are they a top 3 contender? I wouldn't go that far, but they are certainly making a little bit of noise here in the Big Ten.
They're making noise, and shall we say Penn State is the Friday-Saturday squad too also. Because, I think they catch a lot of teams off guard on Friday with just how aggressive and up the ice they are. And then once teams review the footage and go, oh, that's what they're doing, they adjust. And then Saturdays become very tough for the Nittany Lions. But also got to give credit to Michigan State too, who put up a good fight against Penn State in both those games. Was it a 1-goal loss on Friday?
I think so.
That's 4-3. Yep. And then, they still put up 3 against Michigan State. Mind you, Michigan State had 7 on Saturday. So a good response by the Spartans. But Michigan State, like you said, probably not a top 3, maybe even 4 contender, but certainly not a team to gloss over.
Wouldn't want them in the first round in the playoffs. I'll put it to you that way.
No.
The Big Ten, a lot of parity this season, actually. I think I would say on paper, Minnesota is probably the best team in the Big Ten. I don't think Michigan,
top to bottom for sure.
Yeah, I don't think Michigan has the depth that they obviously had last year. And they've had kind of a topsy-turvy ride. The Gophers have had some hiccups too, but I think that they're certainly the most well-oiled machine. And after that, it's anybody's guess. And the Gophers could still not finish atop the Big Ten the way Penn State has been rolling. So you never really know. CCHA 2.0. Topsy-turvy and a half in this one. Bowling Green traveling to Ferris State. Bowling Green, a decisive 6-0 victory on Friday, followed by a Ferris State 4-1 finish last night. 2 teams that Ferris State not expected to be a strong group. This Bowling Green team has mountains and valleys, man. That's really been the descriptor of their season so far. Yeah. Northern Michigan traveling to Mankato. This was a heck of a series.
Yes,
Northern Michigan 3-2 victory for Grant Petoli's club in overtime, and then Mankato a 4-1 victory on Saturday night. So that's a good victory for it's the Wildcats, right, up in Northern Michigan. Yes. So this NMU team, man, I am just waiting for the year. They're so close. They're on the cusp. I'm just waiting for the year where they finally kind of break through and have all those pieces that finally click together. But what a great job that Grant has done up there with that team. This Mankato team, how do we assess them? Like, are they still as strong as they were last year? Are they not as strong as they were?
They're not.
Kind of hard to get a read on them.
The thing that they're missing is their offensive punch. They really miss Nathan Smith up front, Julian Napravnik, just to name a couple of guys. Because I think what it allowed them to do was be opportunistic on offense. They really like to, again, be that shutdown defense first type squad under Mike Hastings. And it gave them confidence that even though they weren't necessarily pushing the pace offensively, they could strike when the opportunities, I guess, presented itself. But this year, what's happening is they don't really have that counter strike ability defensively. I still feel like a lot of their younger forwards are still trying to figure out the Mike Hastings system. They're not the same team. They're still playing okay, but they're not nearly as dangerous and as, what's the word? Just consistent. Honestly,
Yeah.
they're not the same consistent squad we saw last year.
Would agree. Other game in the CCHA, Michigan Tech, St. Thomas, Michigan Tech, pretty decisive 6-2 victory on the first night, and then a 4-3 loss last night. Nick, this was essentially a bench minor that cost St. Thomas with 2.5 minutes to play in this hockey game. Heard some things after the game that Rico Blasi was kind of unavailable for comment to some of the media that we know, and
well, I mean, let's be frank about it. Would you? Especially when you know that if you looked in the mirror, the bench minor, and if what we understand about it, that was a bench minor from the head coach.
Yeah. It's interesting, though. We talk a little bit about accountability and those sorts of things. And, it was interesting kind of going back and forth because we talked about, private group chat about, there are some times where coaches just kind of need to blow off a little steam, but it seemed like it kind of went beyond this a little bit. And I'm curious to see, especially with their, press conference they have coming up on Monday, how this all gets sorted out, because St. Thomas has had a couple of these games this year where they've really let games slip away, and to do that, as a coach and have your players, doing the interviews after the game and you're not a part of that. It's interesting because, it doesn't make a coach a bad person for not wanting to talk to the media. But I think at the same time, as we've all talked about, would Brett Larson ever walk away from that interview? You know what I mean? Like throw that example out there, So this St. Thomas team is so on the cusp of breaking through and trying to make some noise here. And they have let so many of these 1-goal games just slip through their fingers. It's got to be frustrating to be a Tommy's fan right now.
It is frustrating, but I would still counter with this team. Remember last year, they never really were in hockey games. Now, granted, this team is also brand new. And part of the learning process is they have yet to learn how to either get that extra push to, get back into a game or to continue to work hard to maintain a lead. They haven't really figured out how to win those close hockey games. Granted, if we were having the same conversation last year, we'd be like, oh man, close, right? There'd be a lot of positivity around it. What does that tell us? That tells us there's expectations around St. Thomas, which is a good thing. But yes, to the competitor, when you're in hockey games that are this close and have an opportunity to win, and just weekend after weekend, you still fall short. It gets frustrating. And you're waiting for the corner to turn, right? And it just hasn't happened for St. Thomas as of yet. Again, this team, talent-wise, is still building, its foundation. So, so I would argue this team is experiencing probably the bigger growing pains here in year 2 than they had in year 1, right? It's frustrating. It's tough, and I get it from both the coaches to the players and the fans. But know that they're not getting their butts blown out every single week. Yeah, you're in hockey games, you want to see a win. It's frustrating, but they'll get it. It's got to happen sooner than later, because at the end of the day, excuses run out. But
yeah, there's another league where the conference tournament is going to be really interesting again this year. Hockey East, a couple of games to run through. Merrimack played Sacred Heart, 3-0 victory for them on Thursday. Pay attention to Merrimack. They'll come into the fold with our scheduling coming up this week, and they've had a pretty decent run as of late. Sacred Heart had a very good hockey team, but something to keep an eye on here. UConn was at and versus UMass Lowell. UMass Lowell, a victory 3-2 in overtime in night number 1. And the Huskies of Connecticut coming back with a 4-2 victory in night number 2. The UConn team, man. Northeastern was at and versus Boston University. Northeastern, a 2-0 victory in night number 1. And then BU, 4-3 victory in overtime last night. So again, Topsy-turvy action in Hockey East. And then throwing this one in there, Vermont and Providence. Providence had a bit of a scare, 4-0 victory and 4-3 overtime victories against the Catamounts. This Friars team is not half bad this season either, so keep an eye on them. Atlantic Hockey, Air Force traveling to AIC. We only have the Saturday scores. They do play again today, 3-3 in overtime was the finish in that one. So this Air Force and AIC duel continues to go. This Air Force team has been a curious one. And then a couple of independent games. Lindenwood traveling to Wisconsin. Wisconsin escaping with the sweet 4-3 victory on Friday night, and then 5-1, pretty decisive and handy victory on Saturday.
And Friday 4-3 had to come back in the third late with 2 goals. They were down 3-2.
You know, one of the things that we've seen from this Badgers team, though, is if they stay in hockey games, they've kind of been the comeback kids, though, this year. Granted, against some teams that maybe aren't the greatest, but they've found a way out of some hockey games, which we talk about tournament time could, potentially shake things up when it comes to, Big Ten tournament time.
That's Wisconsin, Bemidji State a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need that one game and that's all it takes come March, right? So
certainly would agree. And then Arizona State traveling to Clarkson. Clarkson a sweep here, 2-1 and 5-3 against the Sun Devils. So a good little showing for Clarkson to round out the scores from the past week. What's on tap in the non-NCHC schedule? A couple of non-conference games in the Big Ten. Notre Dame traveling to BU on Wednesday. Alaska Fairbanks traveling to Penn State Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. WCHA 2.0, Mankato travels to Michigan Tech, and Lake Superior State travels to St. Thomas. Very curious about that LSSU weekend. They're really the only conference essentially that has a fair slate of conference games, really, in terms of having more than one matchup. Hockey East, Holy Cross will travel to Merrimack on Tuesday for some non-conference scheduling before UConn visits Merrimack next Tuesday, the 29th. So Merrimack has a weird schedule, but that UConn-Merrimack game coming up next week will have a lot of intrigue there, but they have to handle Holy Cross first. And then UMass, the Minutemen, will travel to UMass Lowell Friday and Saturday. This is at the Friendship Four in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Quinnipiac will also play Dartmouth during this, and then, of course, they'll sort themselves out for the Saturday game. What a great opportunity to play in Northern Ireland and play some hockey.
That'd be fun.
That's pretty cool. And I wonder what the history is there with UMass, UMass Lowell, Quinnipiac, Dartmouth. Is there some Irish connection there?
Maybe.
So,
yeah.
So AIC in Maine playing on Saturday. They just have a one-game matchup next week for Atlantic Hockey, and I believe a non-conference schedule there, obviously. And then independent Ohio State traveling to Long Island University, and then Minnesota will travel to ASU. Curious to see how that matchup goes with the Sun Devils. Moving over to the NCHC, Duluth traveling to Western Michigan, and this was a barn burner of a hockey series.
Yes, it was.
Duluth 5-4 victory in night number 1. Western Michigan completing the split 5-3 in night number 2. This has probably been the most solid showing that we've seen from Duluth in some time.
Hands down all season, really.
However, they gave up 9 goals this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team this Duluth team is apparently going to be, Western Michigan, I guess, for that matter, these two teams might be no stranger to some high scoring affairs.
Well, and here's the thing, where Duluth, I think not that long ago, they were averaging like 1.9 goals a game. So, scoring has been really tough to come by. They're giving up over 3. So I figure if you're Scott Sandlin too, it just might be an option where it's like, well, maybe if we're playing our true identity, which is to be a strong, structured defensive team, and we're not scoring, well, if we can't keep the puck on that, well, might as well open things up and, play the run and gun game. And it was a much closer game. If they are now finding their scoring touch, that's better news for Duluth fans. And again, we talked about Western Michigan last week against the Huskies. They're a good hockey squad.
Yeah.
So despite the split, I think Duluth fans and the players have to feel happy about getting to win one against a top 20 team. Now, mind you, the pairwise, it's not going to rescue them from the pairwise, but it's certainly going to give them at least something to build on. The question is, can they replicate this type of effort week in and week out. So this next weekend, we'll really get a taste to see if UMD, if this was a fluke or if they really have started to turn a corner.
Yeah, I think they're non-conference. I don't actually think they're off next week, to be honest with you. But UNO and DU were off this week here. Yep. And UNO and DU will be the only conference games next week. We'll get to that in just a few moments here. Other two conference matchups here this weekend. Miami traveling to Grand Forks in North Dakota, getting blasted 7-1 on Friday night. But I watched this game last night. A 4-3 gutsy victory for Miami. The first victory since 2017 in Grand Forks for the Redhawks. Outshot, I believe it was 27-6 in the final 40 minutes, including only two shots in period number 3. Came out strong, a 3-0 lead halfway through period number 2. North Dakota responded at the tail end of the middle frame with 2 of their own, tallying the equalizer about halfway through period number 3. And it was all North Dakota from there, except for one egregious turnover right above the goal line for the Fighting Hawks, and no mistake for the game winner for the Redhawks. And they were clinging on for absolute dear life. I mean,
they were.
You talk about the difference between this Redhawks team and the team that we're about to talk about in the CC Tigers. And this Redhawks team, there's a huge difference, and Miami, I think, has certainly taken strides this year, but this was a team that they couldn't get the puck out of their own zone. They were praying to God the puck didn't find the back of the net. What a great victory for this program. But it was shut the door, rely on your goaltender, collapse 5 guys around the net. Everything's off the glass. It was literally trying to dig into your position there, and North Dakota was definitely a heavy push that they tried to hang on to that hockey game and get some points there. So a disappointing loss for North Dakota, but I think if you're a Huskies fan, Duluth, Western, Miami especially, getting a victory against North Dakota, you'll take those splits any day of the week in the NCHC. What a great victory for Miami regardless.
It really is. And, we talked about how our conversations with Miami and especially their captain at the media day, they really felt like the locker room had changed. They really felt like there was an opportunity now for them to, shall I say, not have some off-ice distractions and feel more cohesive as a group.
Yeah.
Anytime you beat North Dakota in Grand Forks is no easy task. I think anybody who follows the NCHC knows that. And for North Dakota, again, you just got, shall I say, just hammered 7-1.
Yeah.
And then you come back the next night, you get up to a 3-0 lead. They lose that 3-0 lead, and you're just getting bombarded. You can't have, and then again, you said 2 shots. One of them finds the back in the net, and that's all it takes, right? Is they never wavered. Again, we know the difference in skill between the two squads and maybe the depth of the talent they have. But good to see Miami just sticking with it, right? And just taking what's given, and just not, shall we say, they're bendy, but not breaking per se.
Yeah. I can't emphasize enough. It was ugly. It was one of those where they had 2 power play opportunities in the third period, and they both disappeared within the first 15 seconds because they took penalties of their own. The first one was 15 seconds, some interference play. And then the second one was a hooking minor right off the draw, with a puck that was just going to end up down the ice and reset your power play. So yeah, it was not a pretty victory, but I'll be honest. I was pretty stoked when Miami scored. I cheered a little bit for sure. St. Cloud traveling to Colorado College in the last NCHC matchup of the week. A sweep for the Huskies, 3-1 and 5-0 on Saturday. Friday night's game started off with Brendan Bushy on Jeff Frazee, shorthanded. Brendan Bushy from basically his own goal line all the way down the ice, and then Jack Peart, Yami Kranola getting assists on that midway through period number 2, which is interesting that there's a primary and a secondary assist on that. I think that's more intriguing than anything. For those who don't remember the Jeff Frazee incident, Don Lucia does. He was a former guest of the show.
He knows that very well.
Episode 25, I believe. Wow, that's a throwback and a half. But it's interesting because this is apparently becoming a theme between St. Cloud and CC. Don't forget, David Rennick led up a goal in the NCHC Frozen Faceoff during the COVID year from basically center ice in that game. So, what more can you say about Brendan Bushy? He's a natural born goal scorer beyond his own center ice line, right?
gotta take lessons from him apparently. So
Yeah, I wonder if he bought a lottery ticket. Colorado College equaling things up in the third period before Dylan Anhorn with a little over 2.5 minutes to play from Micah Miller and Grant Cruikshank. A net mouth scramble was in the perfect position, collapsing down a left-handed shot, short side blocker to give the Huskies the lead. They never looked back. Zach Okabe, Yami Kranola tacking on an extra in that one. Shots on goal were dead even, 29-29. Face-offs 33 for 64 for the Huskies at a 51.6% clip. 0 for 2 on the power play, but a perfect 2 for 2 on the kill. Jackson Castor only allowing 1 goal on 29 shots. Saturday, much different story for the Huskies. A score is a bit misleading in this one, though, because Nick, you and I kind of talked about this via text last night. This is still the best Tigers team that we have seen in a decade. I mean, and some of these stats will show that. Let's get through the scoring here first. Jack Rogers first as a Husky, a very nice
play.
Very nice tip play there. Brendan Bushy, Jack Peart in the first tallying assist. Jack Peart quietly had a really good weekend.
Points in 5 of his last 6, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a talking point here in a few moments for sure. Josh Lidke, good to see him tallying a goal here. Yami Kranola, Zach Okabe in period number 1, and then Grant Cruikshank, a laser upstairs glove side high on the power play from Dylan Anhorn. Again, Adam Ingram in period number 1, 3-0 Huskies after 20 minutes. Zach Okabe from Vietti Mitten and Yami Kranola, the only goal about 5 minutes into period number 2. And then Zach Okabe again to cap off this hockey game from Andre Treyball and
3 goals in the weekend for Zach. Holy buckets!
Yeah, it was a great weekend for him too. A little bit less surprising though, just given what he's brought to the table over the past couple of years.
100%.
The resident buzzsaw at it again. 36-28 shots for CC this weekend. Again, you look at the splits for this team. I mean, they certainly had their looks. Faceoffs dead even, 29 apiece, 50% on that. 1 for 2 on the power play for the Huskies and a perfect 4 for 4 on the kill. Dominic Basty's third career shutout, 36 saves, 36 shots against his own former team, essentially. So, Nick, we talk about this Tigers program. We've raved about them on this show. They finally are playing with speed and skill. They're hardened on the forecheck. They're winning puck battles. They have extended zone time. Couple of really tough bounces in period number 1. That Lidke goal was kind of redirected. Grant Cruikshank, what are you going to do when you give a guy like that space? Every Tigers fan is crying.
His 11th goal of the year, by the way. He's been on freaking fire. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, every Tigers fan crying like the way we look at Kevin Fiala if you're a Wild fan right now. I mean, he's been on a tear. But this Tigers team, they transition. Yes,
they do.
Find D-to-D passes. They move through neutral ice. They are a far cry from them and Miami being lumped into the same category like they have for so many years. This group is, I don't know if it's going to be this year. I don't know if it's going to be next year. But as an organization, they're going to turn a corner, man. This group is going to be a deadly group at some point here.
Yeah, and I think, with more of the Chris Mayotte recruits coming in, right? I think that's going to be, I think you're going to see a bigger corner turn next season. I think, you can see, again, the style of play is there. And you just see it for whatever reason. I think this weekend, I think it's a bit exaggerated because it just seemed like just a couple of mistakes, but Huskies capitalized on a lot of their little, like, just one mistakes, right?
Yeah. The St. Cloud team is good this year.
And that's the other thing is, have we, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm going to anyway. This is the most balanced, complete St. Cloud team we've seen since 18-19?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. 100%. They've got the offense, the defense looks good. Goaltending, the 1-2 tandem has been solid. There's not if there's any true weak point, it's been their penalty kill, honestly. If there has been anything. And mind you, I'm saying that, with an asterisk. It's not super bad, but it could use a little bit of improvement. Power play's been good, 22%. So, I mean, I think it's not necessarily the best window to look through CC because I think St. Cloud is that good, right? But you have to also look at it from the hockey perspective of what CC was like, what their identity was just 2 years ago, and really what their mojo was. They didn't have much, right? And what Chris Mayotte has done in a year and a half, essentially, since he's been there, is nothing short of impressive. This team, like I said, they're they're actually trying to counterpunch. You see the more NHL style of play. They're not sitting back and trapping. So it'll take some time.
Genuine nervousness on Friday night if you're a Huskies fan. I mean, that was about as tight of a hockey game as you could see, like.
And again, when you, as a coach, right, when you necessarily skill to skilled, you're not quite that same level. All you can ask is to try to keep it tight, right? And then try to get yourself a balance. And, a Miami, right? 2 shots in the third, one of them finds the back of the net, and that's the game winner, right? Sometimes you just need that one shot, that just a CNI shot that squeaks through. And that's the difference maker. So I think you have to be happy with Friday, obviously Saturday, a little bit less maybe than ideal for CC. But again, that I think it's less of CC and more of just St. Cloud really taking advantage of some opportunities that they had.
Yeah, CC still struggling a little bit on Saturdays for whatever reason. Pretty impressive for the Huskies to go into Ed Robeson and do what they did, though. I mean, the Tigers have been very good at home this year.
Have been. Yes, they have.
So we talk about standings. Here's the thing, and if you're a St. Cloud fan, why do we mention that we feel like this team is a good hockey team? They need 1 or 2 in the NCHC. The reason I say that, Denver is atop the standings right now with 16 points, 5-1 in the season. Western Michigan at 2. St. Cloud is at 3 at 12 and 11 points respectively. Duluth and CC are actually tied for 4 and 5 right now. With 8 points apiece. Minnesota Duluth has the extra victory, so they're ahead of the Tigers right now. North Dakota in 6th, 1 point behind at 7, and then Omaha 1 point behind them at 6, and then Miami is in 8th at 4 points. And
it's crowded.
And this is the thing. I think Miami and Omaha are probably going to hang out. Miami is probably going to be 7 or 8. I think Omaha 6 or 7 for sure. CC anywhere from 5 to 7 this year. You need those top 2 spots, I think, in the NCHC to maybe give a chance to get Miami or Omaha this season. Like, you do not want Colorado College. You do not want Minnesota Duluth. You do not want North Dakota. You don't want Western Michigan. You probably wouldn't get Denver because Denver's going to be up there too. But if
you do get Denver, you're in the wrong side of the standings conversation.
Yeah, either that or Denver really slipped and suddenly it's 4 and 5 matching up for whatever reason. But this is like, if you're St. Cloud here, and we talked about them being 500 here, they're trending in the right direction against the good teams, and they're taking care of the teams they're supposed to take care of. We talked about how good CC has been. You still got to take care of business against a team like that. Give yourself a chance. You do not want this Tigers team in the first round. You just don't.
No.
Talking about some performers for St. Cloud State, we really haven't focused a lot on the player side. We have a chance to do that with some time this week. So first guy I want to talk about, Nick, Jack Peart, and how we talk about how he was a guy that really had to take a jump in his sophomore season. Little slow to start, but after that, he's really heated up and hasn't looked back. I think with the loss of Josh Lidke, he really took on that enhanced role even more. And I think he's finally becoming that player that we as Huskies fans really wanted him to be.
And we saw this with another defenseman in Nick Perbix, quite literally. Yeah, right. We saw it, and I still remember when, I was, with the team day to day, essentially, up there in St. Cloud. And there were others that I had conversations with that, basically thought that Nick Perbix was overhyped, that, he does turnovers. I'm like, well, yeah, he's young, but look at this, just wait. Like he's got all the tools there. He just has to figure out to put them together. And to your point with Jack Peart, sometimes when it clicks is when almost you're sort of thrown into the fire, right? When you're like, okay, it's either you do it or you don't. And mind you, was Spencer Meyer back in the lineup this weekend? I don't think he was. I think he was still out. When you're losing your captain, a 3-year captain, in Spencer Meyer, and Josh Lidke had been out. Jack Peart, I think, really was asked by the coach staff, hey, we need you to be the player that we know you can be. And shall we say, I think, points in 6 of 7, I think now, if you count this weekend, he's turned it up. And shall we say that there are glimpses of the complete package that we think we'd see. And if he continues to traject that way, he's going to be an exciting player to watch.
Yeah, it certainly was. Like you mentioned, Spencer Meyer was out of the lineup this weekend. And, the thing, too, is that for those wondering, deep pairings, by the way, it was Anhorn and Josh Lidke again, which the return of Josh Lidke alleviates some of the Spencer Meyer issues. Jack Peart, Brendan Bushy together. Really been impressed with Andre Treyball in the quiet season that he's had this season as well, too. But beyond that, it's like, Jack is a guy that I don't know that we expected more of him from his freshman year, but I think it was, you talk about being thrown into the fire. There were certainly some growing pains last year.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he came into this season knowing what he had to do. He had a year under his belt, really kind of had a chance to reset a little bit, kind of almost a reverse of Vieti Miettinen, who had a great freshman campaign for most of the year, struggled in the sophomore slump, and then has now kind of retooled his game here again. Jack was the opposite, where it took him a while to kind of warm up, but once you got the pot boiling, he has certainly looked good. And like you mentioned, that Nick Perbix-esque, ability to try to put all those pieces in the toolbox and carry that with you down the road. Matthew Tkachuk certainly knows what the Nick Perbix toolbox looks like, by the way.
Yes, he does. He's feeling it, that's for sure.
Well, if you're a Tigers fan, Dominic Bassey has looked good. Grant Cruikshank, man, like,
holy buckets,
if you're an athletic trainer on this St. Cloud team, you're wrapping him in bubble wrap until he gets to the ring. Like, oh my goodness, dude.
Holy cow. Another goal and assist. So up to 17 points already.
Can this kid shoot the puck? Like, we always kind of knew that, but like when you put him on a power play unit or on a line, and let's be frank, on a team that can do some damage, my God, dude.
And I think we joked about this preseason, when he started off super hot. And I think we both thought it would eventually tail off. It certainly hasn't.
Yeah.
Do you think Grant Cruikshank, and I think we talked about this point is, do you think Grant Cruikshank wishes he'd been here last year?
I would, what's funny? I would love to ask him that question. And that's the thing, he's not buried in the lineup. He's a top 6 guy, and to be fair, a top line guy now, but coming into the season, he was going to get a shot in that top 6, and he hasn't looked back. It just, he is, I think about the players that have come in to this program since, let's say, 2018-19, which was probably the most complete Huskies team we've ever seen. Probably will see. No offense to the guys, but they were just on another level. Grant Cruikshank is a top 6 forward on that team, hands down. He, this year, has been one of the most complete players we have seen in St. Cloud probably since the 2000s. I mean,
easily.
Up and down the lineup, 200-foot player, can play center, can play wing if he needs to, able to shoot the puck, able to pass the puck, creative, hardened on pucks where he's generating offense, he's winning foot races, winning puck battles, can play on special teams, could probably even kill a penalty for you if you need it. I mean, he is just the complete package this year. And I don't say that because, like you said, 17 points, 11 goals to go along with that marker. But beyond that, just the little things he does, even when he's without the puck, where he positions his body, how he reads the play, how he's able to think 1 or 2 steps ahead with that anticipatory play. What a pickup by Brett Larson.
And isn't that something that Brett Larson preaches? If you do the small things, you get rewarded.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Hockey's not a hard game, people.
No, but it is a game of small details. And again, to the casual fan, a lot of those small details go, I'm not sure if it's unnoticed, maybe underappreciated. Yeah. And with Grant, for right now, the little things are boasting big rewards for him personally as well as for the team. Again, this team is they're a wagon. Can we say it? Yeah. The Huskies are a wagon.
They're a good team this year.
They're a good team. Again, overall, 11-3.
Yes,
11-3. Yeah.
And so you talk about the performers that we expected to show up. Yami Kranola, quietly a 4-assist weekend for him. I mean, he's shown up, and it's funny because as soon as I said he had a quiet weekend, whatever it was, 2 or 3 weekends ago, he's exploded in points. So we got to start calling other people out. Jackson Castor, you need to put the puck in the net more. What is it? Right. Vieti Miettinen has certainly had a great rebound campaign for him in his junior year. Zach Okabe, I raved about him 2 years ago, and I'll continue to rave about him. The way he plays the game. This is, if you're looking for, if Grant Cruikshank's your complete package, Zach Okabe is the guy you throw there if you want a prototypical, quintessential, whatever the descriptor is, for F1 on the forecheck, hard in
Yep.
on pucks, winning battles, aggressive, willing to be gritty in all areas of the ice. And he's a guy that, yes, he's got a lot of speed and skill and certainly has shown that on display this year. But he's a guy who goes where goal scorers go. He wins loose pucks. He's going to the front of the net. He's looking for rebounds. He's looking for redirects. He's looking for anything around the blue paint. And that's what makes him so successful is he's not afraid to be in any area of the ice, even in his defensive zone. We talk about how good these guys are defensively, offensively, defensively, they've been even better in terms of it's not often you see top lines, top six guys that are so responsible on their own end too. It's been mighty impressive from this team. Is there another player that you'd like to talk about? But beyond that, I mean, really, let's encapsulate this team as we head into Thanksgiving break. They're off before they have North Dakota, and then I believe Miami to finish off before Christmas break. We'll get to that.
Right.
But this team last year certainly had a great start in non-conference play and even conference play up to Christmas time. This group just feels so much different. It really does.
It feels more cohesive. It feels like, and we talk about the top guys too, right? Cruikshank, Anhorn, just name a few. But I think the bigger thing is the bottom six.
Yeah.
The bottom six. We talked about how there was that who was going to fill that Will Hammer role. And we really didn't get the impression that that fourth line really was the fourth line that they needed.
Yeah.
To be able to allow the top two lines to do what they needed to do. So to me, as impressive in the points that we've been taught, raving to the top six, also have to give credit to the bottom six and being that aggressive on the forecheck and still being on the offensive zone and wearing teams down, right? And still creating, right? I think Grant Ashawn has been really good in that role. Ethan Aucoin in and out of the lineup. He's learning. They're, again, these young freshmen and some of these underclassmen. And when Aiden spells, he's looked much better. Again, he's been better on the wing than he was, at the center ice position. I think that's been a good change from Brett Larson and the crew.
And how great has a guy like Ryan Rosborough looked this season when he's jumped in? Like
how many times did we talk about the last couple of years when we see him when he was redshirting and we watched him? He's like, this is a big body. Like, get him into the lineup somehow. 6'3". And I know that he came in as a natural center. And I know that Brett Larson said that the defensive side of the game was still something he was learning, and the face-offs as well. So, but I'm glad he's at least in because they've had him on the left wing side. Again, with that size, if you can get in there and skate, and at least, again, even just to create a 50-50 puck battle, and then your supporting cast comes in and is able to dig out a loose puck.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you got to do, right?
Yeah, another guy that we talked about, Kyler Kupka. I've really been impressed with him too. And then
he's been out too.
Yeah,
Jeez.
And then of course Chase Brand as well. Jack Rogers. I mean, getting his first as a Husky, he's been kind of a steady little mainstay in the lineup when he's kind of really filled that role as a third line guy, fourth line guy. But, he's been mighty impressive to me too. I mean, this, like you mentioned, it's hard to point to a deficiency with this group this year. Defensive core has been a well-oiled machine as well too. You just hope the train keeps rolling. So we'll have to see. Yep. Like we mentioned, the standings: Denver, Western, St. Cloud, Duluth, CC, North Dakota, Omaha, Miami, in that order. What's on tap in the NCHC? Our Huskies are off, along with the CC Tigers and Duluth Bulldogs. Other teams matching up the only conference play. Omaha will travel to Denver this upcoming weekend. North Dakota is at and versus Bemidji State for some non-conference action this weekend. That should be an exciting little matchup, I think, to watch. There, Sanford Center and Ralph Ingolstadt Arena. Michigan State will travel to Miami for a non-conference matchup. That'll be a curious case to see how the Spartans handle the Redhawks. And then a single game matchup: Northeastern, Western Michigan, Bridgestone Arena, Nashville, Tennessee. I forget the occasion. I couldn't find the occasion. But they're playing each other at Bridgestone. So that's what's coming up this week. So we don't have a preview for men's hockey because, of course, they're off. Their next matchup will be against North Dakota December 2nd and 3rd. So they'll be playing. Women will be playing this week. So keep an eye on that. Pairwise changes. I suppose we can glance at that really quick to see if there's anything that
Duluth went up a little bit with that win against Western Michigan. Still deep down in there at 36, but they were in the 40s. not
Yeah.
that long ago. So
Yeah, St. Cloud sitting at fourth, which I think is fair. This UConn team's at 3, and I have no problem with that. I mean, they've,
no,
is it maybe a little high based on strength of schedule? Sure, but they've done everything they needed to do. And
can't
I'm
control the pairwise. They can just control what you do on the ice, right?
yeah. When do you think is the last time the two Huskies have matched up there? Now we just need Michigan Tech to jump into the fold.
Right.
So to run it down, Denver at number 1, no problem with that one. Minnesota at number 2. Like we said, this Gophers team is very good.
They're good.
UConn, St. Cloud, Penn State at 5. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Harvard at 6, man. I know they're 7-0, but like, get out of here with that.
I know, pretty much.
Providence at 7. Like I said, this Friars team is not half bad this year. Quinnipiac at 8. Merrimack
They're
at
good.
9. This Merrimack team. BU at 10. Michigan State at 11. The Wolverines dropping to 12 right now. Tough, obviously, weekend for them. UMass at 13. They're 6-5-1. I still don't understand this one. Maybe it's the game against Denver that probably really helps them.
Most likely.
UMass Lowell right behind them in 14, Mankato in 15, and Ohio State 16. NCHC people, Western Michigan right behind in 17. Michigan Tech, RIT Northeastern rounding on the top 20, by the way. But let's look around here. North Dakota's at 28. That loss against Miami probably doesn't help. Miami's right behind them, tied for 29th.
How about that, huh?
And Omaha's right behind them or at 31.
Wisconsin's jumped since
to 33. Victory for Clarkson put them right in the mix. Like you mentioned, Duluth at 36.
Yep.
CC's at 43. I still think CC, I mean, I know they've had a couple of losses. Like the St. Lawrence weekend certainly didn't help them. But I think they're much better than 43. But math is math, apparently. Yeah, isn't that weird that CC is technically sitting in the upper echelon-ish of the NCHC standings, and they are, let's do math, 12 or 13 points behind Miami, who is dead last in the NCHC. I mean, it's all about who you play at the right time and who you're playing against. Is there any other surprises that stick out to you here?
I think if anything, Wisconsin being as high as 33 still kind of surprises me, honestly.
Yeah, they've strung a couple of weekends together, though, where they've taken care of business. ASU and NMU tied at 22. That's kind of interesting, right behind Notre Dame. And then BC is in that mix, too, along with Bemidji State. So
Bemidji State being at 25, that's good for them.
Yeah, St. Thomas is at 49 for other Minnesota-related schools. So, interested to see how everything obviously shakes out. Women's side here, St. Cloud was off this weekend. Let's get you recapped on other scores here going on. UW Eau Claire played Minnesota State Mankato on Monday for some non-conference action. MSU handy 7-1 victory. St. Thomas then traveled to Mankato this weekend for Saturday-Sunday action. Mankato won yesterday 3-1. We don't have a score for today. Bemidji State traveling to Ohio State. I was curious to see how Bemidji did here, and they didn't do well.
Not so well.
Yeah, 5-0, 7-1. And then Harvard traveling to Duluth for some non-conference. Duluth outscoring their opponents 13-0 over the weekend. So
yikes.
Yeah, good weekend for the Bulldogs here. I think the Bulldogs are really probably St. Cloud's biggest competitor here this season, I would say, based on how things have shaken out. Minnesota will travel to Wisconsin this weekend. They did play on Saturday to a 3-3 overtime tie where the Gophers did win in a shootout. Of course, back in action here on Sunday. No women's recap, so let's get to some standings here. Ohio State at 37 points, 12-1-1 in the season. This Buckeyes team is good. They are... I would say they are probably, I don't want to say head and shoulders, but they are probably the one team that has broken away from the pack, not just statistically, but they're kind of on another level. Minnesota 9-0-2 at 29 points. Wisconsin, fair amount behind them at 22 points at 7-1-1. The top three are kind of not bunched up together like they have been in years past. There's really been some separation here.
However, Wisconsin, 2 games in hand too. On Minnesota too, so that could close quick.
Yeah, well, good thing they played each other, right? So that'll sort things out. Minnesota Duluth at 5-5, they're at 15 points. Mankato right behind them at 13 points at 4-7. Huskies tied with that same point value in 6th. Huskies have played one more game and it was a loss. So Mankato has a game in hand, so that's why that is. Bemidji State 1-11 with 3 points, and then St. Thomas yet to win a game in 8 appearances. So really, Bemidji and St. Thomas are kind of stuck in the cellar right now. And it's really a 3-way fight for 4th place at 15, 13, and 13 points between Duluth, Mankato, and St. Cloud. So I would break it up as top 3, middle 3, bottom 2. if you're trying to figure that out. St. Thomas will travel Saturday, Sunday to Mankato the next week on Thanksgiving as I actually didn't update what's on tap, I don't think. Or yes, I did. Oh, Minnesota travels to Wisconsin, I believe. Maybe I left this in there accidentally. Regardless, though, Colgate will have Ohio State Tuesday, Wednesday this upcoming week. Bemidji State will travel to Quinnipiac Friday and then get UConn or Sacred Heart Saturday. And then Penn State travels to Minnesota. That's what it is, Friday. And then they get BU or Yale on Saturday. I believe Wisconsin is off. And St. Thomas and Mankato, I believe, are probably off too. I probably messed that up, but that's okay. Last matchup, St. Cloud, Lindenwood. They'll be matching up in Lindenwood over Thanksgiving here on the 25th, that Friday. St. Cloud could use this victory here, if anything, for moral support, I guess. I mean, they don't have to have it, but certainly won't hurt them. This Lindenwood team has kind of been up and down in years past. Really not a whole lot to say here. What do you have to add here for the women?
Any point, any sort of win is momentum. It's confidence. And when they get back to conference action, again, as you mentioned, we talked about how a good season for them would be in a fight for fourth. They're in there. They're in the fight. So I think for Idalski, again, it's more just trying to continue to grow that consistency. Again, you beat the Gophers a couple of weeks ago, but then unfortunately kind of took a step back against Duluth that same weekend. Again, playing 3 games in a week. That short turnaround probably wasn't ideal, but you have to be able to go out and win hockey games consistently, and that's still something they're learning to do. So anytime you have a favorable matchup, got to take care of business.
Yeah, Minnesota State, Mankato, St. Thomas, and Ohio State are all, and Wisconsin are all off this weekend. Just pulled up the WCHA schedule. So moving over to the Minnesota Wild, our last topic in the main portion of the show here. We'll probably spend a fair amount of time here because our extra ice session is piddly at best. 8-2, 18 points in the season. They're 3 points out of third in the Central, 0 points out of second in the wild card, with 3 teams above them, though, in that same exact spot, either with a game in hand or with goal differential record with regulation wins. We'll get to that in a moment here. We're going to kind of go through the standings a little more in depth in the NHL here today. A -5 goal differential for the Wild past week. San Jose, a 3-2 shootout loss. Nashville 2-1 loss in Nashville. Pittsburgh a 6-4 loss at home, and then Carolina 2-1 victory in overtime. Alex Goligoski with the game winner. Pretty emotional after
in his 1,000th game and been a scratch for 5-6 straight.
Yeah, in his 1,002nd game, it was his 1,000 game celebration at home with the Wild. So he got an engraved Rolex, an ATV, silver stick, obviously.
Fun jazz.
Yep, and ended up getting the game winner. It was Sam Steele with a great wrist shot, glove side to tie that game with a little over 5 minutes to play. Much needed points for this Wild team. You know what's weird, Nick? As they've got Winnipeg coming up on Wednesday, Toronto on Friday, Arizona on Sunday. They've got like a 4 or 5 game homestand. Coming up. This Wild team, it's crazy, like you mentioned, that they're so close in the standings here. I think I finally flipped over, though, Nick, because I think that on this show, especially, we're a very positive group, right? We like to try to pull the positives, kind of give things time here. The Wild are still kind of in the thick of it. I think I'm finally in the camp, though, that this team fundamentally is not a strong hockey team. They're not a good hockey team.
No, they're not, because, let's take the 2 games this past week, right? You try to, shall we say again, protect your goaltender. You play a defensive style game, can't score. So then you come back and say, okay, well, let's open things up. You do score, but you still allow more goals. So you lose 6-4, even though it really was 6-3. That fourth goal came, I think, 7 seconds left in the hockey game. Garbage goal. Yeah. So they haven't been able to figure it out. And I will say this, it's not just the case of losing Kevin Fiala. There's no question that the secondary scoring has been bleak at best. Yeah. but also it just seems like the team itself, and mind you, can we talk about injuries? The injuries hasn't helped either.
Yeah, it certainly has. By the way,
No.
Kevin Fiala, 18 points in 21 games, in case anyone was curious. Leads the Kings, if I'm not mistaken, but
Pretty close.
Yeah.
So you have no secondary scoring. Rossi is a stone's throw away from being sent back down to Iowa, which
yeah,
he probably needs to.
it will probably happen.
It'll
Yeah.
probably happen. Again, Tyson Jost picked up on waivers that we talked about how he kind of fell out of favor.
Yeah. Nick Patan looked good last night, though, I thought.
I was shocked because I predicted that he would get the opening roster. I was shocked that he was one of the last guys that got sent down.
Yeah.
You know, as far as a fourth line role, I thought he actually had really good chemistry with the three that I can't remember exactly the three that they had.
He's a guy who could stick, especially with Tyson Jost leaving, not losing. And Marco Rossi's situation. And the other, Greenway's been in another lineup. The person that has been a major disappointment to me this season in that bottom six right now, Marcus Foligno, man.
Yeah.
He's really struggled.
He has. And it just first of all, the grief line, they had something special. They were healthy most of the year last year.
Yeah. We haven't even seen it hardly.
Haven't seen it. Ryan Hartman, who again, part of that top three, not being out long term, that doesn't help. So you have a situation where you had a club that was mostly healthy for a lot of last year.
Yeah.
They're not healthy. With the substitution, shall we say, trying to make the train work, it hasn't gelled. You can't score more and then still keep a good defensive structure to lock down defensively. Yeah. They just haven't figured it out yet. And I know in our private chat, Noah, you said, well, if they tank this year, not the worst thing in the world. This is a deep draft coming up.
Extremely deep draft class. In fact, they predict that 3 of the top 5 guys could be NHL ready now.
Wow. Well, we know Connor Bedard, obviously, the so-called number one. He probably will be the number one.
Yeah.
The question I have is this. I think the bigger implication in the Wild will be if indeed the estimate and we talked about the boards, and I also said this is a new revenue stream. If indeed the salary cap jumps by $4 million, mind you, the Wild right now have 5? If you get an extra $9 million on your hand, can they go out and get a center?
They could. We talked about even in that private chat too, even if it's a 2-year plan, by 2025, the cap is supposed to jump by $10 million, and then the Wild get $15 million in cap raise. So they get $25 million at that particular point, which is much needed. It's, it's almost a bad thing because we're doing the Minnesota sports thing again, where they're still in the mix somehow. And, it would almost make me feel better if the Wild lost 8 of their next 9 to kind of put themselves in the spot where they're out of it. You know what I mean? They're still
put themselves into it.
Yeah.
Right?
There's still a glimmer of hope, but that's the thing. It's is this team, let's say they make a first round, are they a contender?
The way they're playing right now, no. Yeah. And here's the other thing too, right? So you have paydays coming up for Matt Boldy. You have Sam Steele, who will be tendered a contract. Yes, I lost my camera for whatever goof. But while I'm trying to fix this on the fly here, and I do apologize. Here we go. No, I got it. It's for whatever reason it switched over, and I'm not sure how that happened.
This is
new.
You look better this way.
I honestly I don't disagree with you. So there I am. Okay,
hey,
so now your eyes are exploded. Okay, so but also Duhaime and Mason Shaw all on arbitration rights, RFA contracts. Here's the other one, Kalen Addison, the big UFA, Matt Dumba. So there's going to be some. Whatever happens after this, no matter what happens, there are some roster decisions that are coming for this Wild squad that are going to make this a very interesting offseason regardless of where they finish.
Yeah, Kalen Addison, Matt Boldy, certainly priority, obviously. Boldy's been a bright spot. Mason Shaw has been a fantastic bright spot for this group.
He's good.
Would you have ever guessed, Nick, if I told you on November 20th in the Western Conference, Dallas, Colorado, and Winnipeg are your top 3 in the Central Division? There's one of those teams that we would have expected.
Yep.
and that's Colorado. Dallas 11-5-2.
No, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Winnipeg and Colorado are tied at 21 points. And meanwhile, let's not forget Colorado was kind of in the cellar a little bit here. And now they're 7-3 in their last 10, as are the Jets 7-2-1. They got shut out last night, but that's the Wild's next opponent. And then beyond that, St. Louis is in the second wild card spot. And then Nashville and Minnesota are trailing Calgary and Edmonton in the wild card there. And like somewhat, I mean, it's just no team really has gained a ton of traction here besides Vegas, who's been...
And St. Louis. Remember, St. Louis on a 7-game losing streak. They have won 6 straight now. So they have, at least as of right now, they've kind of righted the ship.
Yeah. And how about this? Let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks, right? Because let's not forget, Vancouver dropped like their first 7 or 8 games.
Yeah.
They're 3 points behind the Minnesota Wild right now at 6-9-3. Like,
yeah.
This is, I don't know how to really characterize it. And you look around at the East, like the East is much more spread out as far as like what you would kind of expect. Like New Jersey, I don't know where they came from, but Lindy Ruff is apparently the answer. They're 15-3, man.
Well, and shall we say that the argument with New Jersey the last couple of years has been they had good starts and then they just collapsed and they're like, what the heck,
Yeah,
right? They were expected. They were expected to be better the last couple of years. And then it's like finally it looks like early on they have pulled it together again. 12 straight wins. Holy Jesus, they're a wagon. Holy cow.
Nick, let me put it to you this way. How many Eastern Conference teams are below the Minnesota Wild this season right now?
In the points?
In the league, yeah.
4.
Thanks for counting. I wanted you to guess, but it's fine.
I knew it wasn't many. So.
Yeah. And the Philadelphia Flyers and Chuck Fletcher's group are tied with the Wild. So,
oh boy,
yeah.
What can we avoid triggering the fan base?
Yeah. the Wild are 23rd, 1 point above the Capitals, who are having a really up and down year this season.
Having a tough go.
Yeah, this Ottawa Senators team is down at 30 now. They had such a great start. So did Buffalo, and they just have really tailed off. But
lost 8 straight.
Yeah, Chicago, the only Central Division team besides Arizona behind the Minnesota Wild. Seattle is 8th in the league right now, Nick. What a great season. What a great season they've had. You look at them, Vegas, LA. I mean,
yeah.
The Pacific is stronger than the Central this year.
It is 100%.
And the fact that the Edmonton Oilers are only at 20 points astounds me because Connor McDavid is a cheat code.
He is a human cheat code, yes. Again, Edmonton has had defensive / goaltending woes, even with Mike Smith not between the pipes. It's been kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger storyline is Seattle with some of their really good offseason acquisitions, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and then obviously Matty Bernier is coming in. Shane Wright, it looks like he's ascended a little bit into their lineup as well. So that was their big thing last year, is that they couldn't score. This year, they're scoring a lot more. Can they keep it going? Most likely.
And I've always been a fan of make the playoffs and see what happens. And that's certainly still true in the National Hockey League. But here's the thing, Nick. You've got Nashville that's tied with you on points right now. St. Louis, who is also tied with a game in hand, sitting in that second wildcard spot. Winnipeg and Colorado 3 points ahead of that. Dallas at 24 points. Do we want that for Minnesota? Do we want them to sneak into the second wildcard spot? Or not to say that you tank for Bedard like we've talked about, but do the Wild need a season like that where they finish 7th in the Central and they kind of have a little bit of a reset here and kind of rebuild the core around Kaprizov by the time he's supposed to re-sign, which thankfully I believe is in 2025 when they're supposed to have a ton of cap space. But
it's it's not that simple, right? Because does Kaprizov get frustrated if he wants to win?
But that's what I'm saying. Is it smart for the Wild here to sit?
If you're going to do it, you have to do it now.
That's what I'm saying. Should they be sitting in wild card 1 or wild card 2, being a mediocre hockey team with the 16th overall pick in the NHL draft, or
I get it.
Do they kind of retool here a little bit and kind of anticipate the cap relief that's coming?
Here's the other problem: is the Minnesota Wild have not, in shall we say their short history, have had the greatest track record of draft picks in the top 10. Benoit Pouliot, James Shepard.
Benoit Pouliot was a good player though.
The skill set, he should have been better. He should have been a lot better.
Yeah, but their last couple, it's been Matt Dumba. Matt Dumba was 12, I think. Jonas Brodin was 7.
Brodin was probably
Yeah.
their best one. Rossi is still young. Again, I want to
Matt
emphasize
Boldy at 12.
Matt Boldy at 12. So, but what I mean by is like top 10.
Let's see here.
Let's see.
Pick history.
I mean, besides Marian Gabrick and I think Koivu was a top 10 pick. Brent Burns was a top pick. At the end of it, it's still rolling the dice, right, Noah?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, let's go through here. Like you mentioned, Marian Gabrick. Who is the next player drafted by the Wild after Marian Gabrick in the 2000 entry draft, by the way?
Ooh, that draft wasn't great either.
Only other player to really play minutes in the show.
Well, I gave it away. I have no idea.
Nick Schultz.
Schulte. Okay.
2001, 6 overall, Mikko Koivu.
Yep.
Derek Bugard was 202nd overall in that draft, by the way. Pierre-Marc Bouchard at 8 in 2002.
PMB, yep.
Yeah, followed by Josh Harding in the second round. Brent Burns in 2003.
Yep.
AJ Thielen in 2004 at 12. Yay. Benoit Pouliot at 4 in 05. James Shepard in 06, like you mentioned.
Yeah, that was good.
Andre Fiala in 2006. What a life. Colton Gillies in 07.
That he sniffed the show and then was promptly said, "See you later."
Yeah,
okay.
Actually, Justin Falk behind him had a better career. Tyler Kuma at 23 in 2008. Actually, only 4 draft picks. Him and Marco Scandella. I can't believe Marco Scandella was drafted in 2008.
Yeah.
09 was Nick Leddy, who never actually played for the Wild.
Nope. Thank you, Cam Barker.
Yeah. 2010 was Mikhail Granlund.
Yep.
At 9, Jonas Brodin at 10 in 2011, Matt Dumba at 7 in 2012.
Yep.
2013, their first pick was in the second round. Alex Tuck at 18 in 2014. Gosh, would have been nice. Eriksson Ek at 20 in 2015. Luke Cunnin at 15, who plays for the Preds.
Sharks now.
2017, their first pick wasn't until round 3, so kind of a nothing there.
Oh, Chuck Fletcher. There you go.
2018 at 24, this was the Paul Fenton single draft. Philip Johansson, who never turned into anything, followed by Matt Boldy at 12 and 19, Marco Rossi, and then Jesper Wallstedt last year.
Yep.
And then Liam
Brackett. Yep.
And then Liam Ogren and Yurov, both first rounders in this past year. So I don't know that it's been terrible in the top 10, but
it's been great.
It's been a while since we've had a top 10 pick. In fact,
that's the thing. Yep.
In fact, besides Marco Rossi in 2020, you have to go all the way back to 2012, which is Matt Dumba, Jonas Brodin, and Mikhail Granlund in the previous 3 drafts, which were, let's be real, not terrible picks. They've all been NHL players. And then after that, really James Shepard and Benoit Pouliot are the only outliers. And then Pierre-Marc Bouchard, Mikko Koivu, and Marian Gabrick were all very good NHLers. So
yes, they were.
But it's an interesting case. What do the Wild do here? Obviously, you don't intentionally lose games, but can this fan base take more of, second wild card exits?
No, but they also can't take missing the playoffs. At the end of it, I think the bigger question is what do they do with $6 million coming off the board with Dumba plus the 5? You've got $11 million effectively.
Here's my question for you.
I think that's the bigger question, honestly, more than the draft is what do you do with some of that money that you have freed up if indeed it does jump by that much?
Here's my question, and I don't know how many suitors Matt Dumba will have because he's a curious case and a half, like we've obviously discussed on this show plenty of times. But if Matt Dumba is not picked up by anybody, and you can sign him for $2.5 million a year for 2 years.
You can sign him for 1.5 if you want.
Do you take it?
Yeah.
I would too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that's sort of the reason why people are knocking on him is that at $6 million, right, there's an expectation of at least some offense. And again, I think the case is clear. And I still wonder why Wild fans can't just simply look at the simple fact that ever since the fight with Matthew Tkachuk, he's never been the same. And before then, it really seemed like he had turned a corner.
It seemed like he was underpaid.
Yeah, it really did. And so it's, it obviously
Alex Goligoski coming off the books here as well.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Yep. So you've got 6 and then 7. you have 5 already. That's 11 that you have.
Yeah, and
11 to 12.
really the only big re-signing is Kalen Addison, who's going to get paid. Maybe not heavily, but he'll make. I would say right now, if you were to pay Kalen Addison,
I'm Bill Guerin,
4.5.
If I'm Bill Guerin, I give him a bridge deal.
Yeah, 4.5 for 3 years or something like that.
Something like that, and I would see if you can try to get Boldy also on a bridge deal, because if you can try to go out to the market and get another depth center or depth scorer,
let's not forget
that's huge.
Let's not forget though, if you believe in this core and you get to 2025, you can pay these guys. But
I think you do. I still think you have to tackle the free agent market. We know because Ryan Hartman comes off the books too. Also, I think next year.
Yeah,
if I'm correct. Yep, next year. Zuccarello is off the books after next year. Foligno also after next year. Freddie Gaudreau after this year as a UFA.
Boy, I really like the way he's played though.
Yes. If you can extend him this spring and even keep the same dollar amount, 1.2, maybe even give him a little boost at 1.5, I would be all over that, 100%.
Yeah. Curious to see how Mason Shaw develops, obviously, too. But, boy, what a journey he's had with those ACL injuries as well, too. I mean, it's been mighty impressive for him. Jordan Greenway's still a curious case. I mean, that's the thing. Like, he's got some sort of shoulder injury, and some guys never really heal from that. The thing is, by the time Jordan Greenway's contract ends, will he even be in the National Hockey League? Like, I asked that not to be funny.
Here's the thing. He's 25.
Yeah.
He's so you'll be, 28, 29, effectively?
Yeah, the question is...
is he even going to be healthy before then?
Yeah, has his shoulder given out on him? How about the fact that John Merrill is locked up until the same year as Kirill Kaprizov, by the way?
That's actually a really good money control signing, honestly.
Him and Jacob Middleton, who's only 26.
Yeah.
So the Spurgeon contract is not going to age well, I don't think, by the end of that. But you took the risk.
But it's at the end of it. Spurgeon's still one of your better defensemen right now. Brodin, of course, is worth every penny. If not, he's underpaid, I would argue.
Yeah, Eriksson Ek with the same amount of term, too. And people always get on Jonas Brodin. I know he's not the flashiest offensive guy, but that's not his game. It never has been. No. He's a structural 200-foot defenseman who locks things down. And he's had
skate.
And he's had a whale of a time, largely for his career, being paired with Matt Dumba and trying to, keep the house together when Matt sends it out.
He's the safety valve, right? Yeah. And that's the thing is, it was supposed to allow Matt Dumba to utilize his offensive instincts and his shot, which we haven't seen since the Matt Tkachuk injury. And you kind of wonder, the Wild must know that's never coming back. I think we can all say that side of his game is gone.
Yeah, unless something absolutely crazy happens. Well, final synopsis here, Nick, before we head over to a very short extra ice session here. The Wild, man, what do we think?
Well, they're a tweener team, right? They can't.
What's new?
They're dealing. What's new? But I think it's different than years past, right? I think that the injuries haven't helped. I think they were banking on Rossi actually having some production. The fact that he hasn't had a single sniff at it, hasn't helped.
And my dad said something the other day, and at first I thought he was kind of crazy. And then I was like, maybe he's not crazy. And is this a solution? Probably not. Obviously, he had a great preseason. He's like, what if they just put Rossi in between Kaprizov and Zuccarello and just let him simmer? Because he's going to get points. He's going to be with good hockey players. There's no way he doesn't get points there. You know what I mean? And just let him grow through it. The
thing is I think you could do that if the team wasn't at the record that they're at.
Yeah.
I think so. It's not crazy from a hockey sense.
In either direction, by the way.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I think if the team, especially with the injuries, right, when Hartman goes down, if this team is second in the Central and you wanted to experiment with it for a little bit just to see if you can't at least break the seal. I think there's confidence that if he gets one or a point, I think more is to follow. But with the team struggling, they're at barely 500.
Yeah.
I don't think the team is willing to take that quote unquote risk right now. The other side of the coin is, does that really help the cause? And, what's the effect on, the top two, Zuccarello / Kaprizov. It's a complicated puzzle. We'll put it to you that way.
It certainly is. The thing that's difficult with this Wild team too, that I think has been the worst part for them this season, the expectation was set so high last year.
Yeah.
That it's, and so many guys they haven't really regressed, but maybe they overachieved last year or had just found the right
that's
fit.
The thing. Yeah. A lot
hard.
of guys had career years, and
Yeah.
I think the expectation was, well, okay, the bar moved up. Let's keep it there. When the reality is that bar probably was too high to begin with.
Yeah, certainly was. Well, we'll try to keep things on the down low, as we would say. We're going to head on to our extra ice session. Just a very little quick blurb about some uniforms that have come around in the state of hockey, both on the ice and otherwise. And welcome into the Extra Ice session. Nick Maxon alongside myself, Noah Grant. Nick, this will be a very quick blurb for us. First, Minnesota Wild wrapping things up here on their end of things. The reverse retro is finally out, Minnesota or wild.com/RR. And we talked a little bit about how people, didn't, think the green jersey was necessary, or that I can't believe they went with the same palette. I think a lot of us thought, well, if there was going to be a white jersey, there was going to be a green one here. I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
I thought they were cool.
I like him.
Yeah. Almost as much as your camera likes you, just disappearing on you left and right here.
Did it go again?
It sure did. You look good. Like you were a circle with mountains. I don't know how that will show up on the actual YouTube feed. Oh, you're back. Hey, how are you? Wow. Reverse retros green and yellow are also back for the Wild. And I don't know. I think they're cool. I think the Wild capitalized on this opportunity. Probably one of the only chances they would get to do a double North Star themed thing, and we've done it.
Yeah,
it's happened. It's not going to probably happen again unless something crazy goes on. I would say if I had to rate these jerseys, the whites were certainly like a 9 out of 10. They were unreal.
Yeah,
I would say the greens, I would say 7.2 out of 10. Like they're still cool.
I'll give him an 8. I'll give him an 8.5.
Yeah,
honestly,
the full kit looks really cool.
They actually, and it's funny because the whites were good, but I would say the green has actually been getting a lot more, shall we say, national chatter about, hey, wow, get rid of the reds and go to this color scheme.
Yeah, I wish.
Happen. But that would look, especially with the stars and those look good.
Yeah.
Those look good. But then can you imagine the tough time for a broadcaster between the stars and the Wild? Oh, God. That'd be a nightmare.
You mean the stars and the stars, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I've been an advocate for the NHL allowing teams, because again, I think we had a deeper dive on this a couple weeks back. The reverse retro, this will probably be the last rendition of the reverse retro.
Yeah.
Because again, you can only stretch it so many different ways before you're just trying too hard. I've always been in favor of doing something like what baseball is doing. We'll get to the Twins here in a second, but also the NBA for having, a couple different alternates. Yeah. And in fact, perfect scenario, and maybe to both sides of the argument, Carolina were their home jerseys against the Wild yesterday, because Winnipeg is doing their reverse retro. I think they travel either today or tomorrow. So only carried one jersey. I always thought it'd be kind of fun where the home team should just pick whether one side or the other, whether it's an alternate light jersey or an alternate dark jersey, and then let the road teams know it ahead of time and go from there. Have a little bit more fun with it. I think that's one thing the NHL could capitalize more on, and not be limited in the scope of like a reverse retro theme, but do something more unique to the squad where they are not bound by a certain theme or, whatever the heck you want to call it. So
I'm going to throw this out here right now. Whites need to be the new homes again. I think that it looks crisp, it looks clean, and that, for those who don't know why the whites used to be home, one, because I think they look cleaner, but number two, it's because the visiting opponents, where if you went and you saw 40 Wild games in a season, you would get to see the unique jerseys that would come in from other teams that would be colored, right? Yep. So that was the whole purpose of that. Why they ever switched that when a lot of sports still pick white as the home uniforms, I will never know.
No, because if you think about the NFL, if I remember the switch, because that happened post-lockout, I think if the reasoning, if I remember correctly, was, well, the NFL does home dark, so we're just trying to, I think honestly it was a BS answer, and they were just trying to make a switch to make a switch. But Yeah, no, up until that point, it was always
Yeah.
home lights, you know?
Yeah, I've always been a fan. I think you have so many more options in certain senses. Well, let's move on to some home whites, some new ones, two new, well, white and cream, I guess, and then two road jerseys.
Yeah.
The Minnesota Twins coming out with their new palette here, and some
Oh,
good,
boy.
some good, some bad here.
A
Here's
lot
what
of bad.
here's what I wouldn't say a lot of bad. Here's what I'll say: the two whites look good. Really, I love the clean look of the new home whites. I think they look fantastic. Because that's what a lot of baseball teams have been going to. Think about their AAA affiliate as well too, down in St. Paul. Is like they've done that where they haven't overloaded the crest with a lot of backdropping and essentially what's called a stroke that's on the outside of the outline of the branding. They've gone to a simpler version. I like the homes, especially the Twin Cities alternate. I like those.
That one I do like.
Yeah. I like the home ones because I like a clean jersey. Like a white jersey should be clean. It shouldn't be busy. It shouldn't be over the top. Certainly the Twin Cities hat probably could have been something different, but it's the road uniform.
How about the M hat? Ugh.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. That's a miss. Huge miss.
Well, those are the roads, so we're getting to those. So the road uniforms, yeah.
They suck. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, the hats certainly are the worst part. We've already talked about this. They're not the Miami Marlins.
No,
so
they're not.
The hats are certainly out. They got to bring back the old retro M. I think that was the best. I don't mind the roads in terms of like the striping and like the actual like base of each jersey. And even the numbers on them aren't terrible. It's the actual graphic that says Minnesota on the front that I think they could have been a little more creative with. I think that's a bit too blocky, too generic. That's the logo where I feel like that feels like I can make it in Photoshop in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Like that's where
you could. It's like pick a font and here you go.
Yeah, so I'm that's where I think they've really struggled with is the away setup. Do we want to go through each of the jerseys and like rate them? How do we want? Well, let's talk.
I mean, there's only 4, so yeah, we can.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about. Did you want to add stuff on the aways? Because you're obviously not a fan of those, but
no, I was never a fan of the pinstripes. So I won't be honest with you, just because I don't know. I liked the cleaner non-pinstripe ones.
Yeah.
Agree. That's just my personal preference.
Agree.
And the fact that they're sort of like, if you look at the pinstripes, they're very subtle.
Yeah.
It's not like the older pinstripes where it's like, they're there. This is like, I'm kind of here, kind of not.
It kind of gives me vibes to the way that I look at it. It gives me vibes to like this, how it used to look in the retro days when the jerseys were a lot thicker and it was hard to see the difference because of how thick like the material of the jerseys were like back in the 50s and stuff like that. So maybe that's what they were going for. I'm not really sure, but let's go left to right here. We're looking at the graphic that came out with Polanco, Buxton, Luis Ariz, going from left to right, basically. So we'll start with those grays, like we talked about, 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, I guess. What do you got for this one?
So we're talking about the road gray with a pinstripe.
Yep.
4.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I would say I was going to go 4.5 on that one. The hat is a killer. Like they got to redo the hat. And I wonder if they will. There's been some serious.
They already spent the money on it.
Yeah, there's been some serious backlash on the fact that it's very close branding to the Marlins, like too close. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, bring back the old retro M. I think that would be fantastic. Yeah, 4.5 I think is fair.
That'll be the next reverse retro for baseball. So they're waiting for that probably.
Yeah, certainly. The primary homes, the whites, what do you got here?
I don't mind them as much, but still love them. I'm going to give a 6.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 7.5 on these ones. I like them. I think maybe the Twin Cities hat has been around for so long that I feel like maybe it's time for a change in general there.
I think it's so I think it's still so synonymous.
Yeah, true.
That's not going to go away
anytime
soon.
I like it better with the alternate that we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, 7.5 is my vote. How about the Blues?
I actually don't mind the Blues. I think the Blues look good. I'm shocked because I did like the Reds. Is it just me? Is it I liked the alternate Reds? I think the Reds
some people like the Reds. A lot of people were really sad that the baby Blues went away.
Yep. Well, now with this color scheme and the hats, there's no way those are coming back.
I mean, I could still see it as some sort of like promotional thing.
Yeah, but still, it won't be as much in the rotation as it has been. We'll put it that way.
So did you? What do you
the
got?
Blues, a 7.
7? Okay, wow, that's been your highest rated one. I was actually kind of surprised. I was going to go with like a 6, 5.5 to 6. I think without the pinstriping, they're not bad, but this is the one jersey that is a little bit too plain that probably could have used a little bit more oomph, maybe. Because the hats are also blue, so it feels very like we have a little league team and we just got our jersey on custom ink, and threw it all together. So, but I don't mind them. I think they might look better on the field than they do in a photo. Last jersey, the Twin Cities cream colored alternates. Nick, I got to be honest, I'm going to go 9.5 on these. I love them.
I like these are my top. I'm going to go 9 on these.
Yeah,
actually,
I like them as well. So overall, if you were to characterize the Minnesota rebrand, they actually also redid their actual logo, the Minnesota Twins, the circular logo. That's kind of a baseball. I think they did a really good job with that one too. I would give that an 8 out of 10. I like the little mini rebrand here. I would love to know what Caleb Peabody thinks. Of course, he used to work for the Minnesota Twins, so very curious to know what he would have thought. But overall, like you said, some good, some bad. I still think there's more good than bad, but the bad is noticeably bad. It's not like, ooh, that's kind of bad. It's like, ooh. So overall, how do we feel?
I feel
tingly
like I
inside?
do no. I like most Twins fans wanting more. Like honest, like wanting more, like in terms of expectation. Like
no, that was good. I like that. That's a fair.
I don't usually get your funny bone very often. So when I do, I'm actually shocked that I do.
That's our show for this week. No, that was a good close. I certainly Minnesota sports leave us to be desired. Here's a final question. All Minnesota sports here right now, Sunday, November 20th. Rank the Minnesota sports teams, the major sports teams, from 1 to 4 in terms of interest, in terms of excitingness to watch.
This should be easy. Vikings.
Yep.
Still the Wild, because I just can't do the Timberwolves, man. I just can't. And then the Twins aren't playing, so they're naturally 4. So
yeah. What's interesting, and by the way, we were going to kind of go through this anyway. The Twins are in 10th right now in the league. They're 8-8. They're exactly 500. Or Timberwolves. Sorry. They're exactly 500. I think that we expected them to be a little bit better to start here. I agree with that assessment. The Vikings have been the hot team to watch right now. Nick said they weren't going to make the playoffs. I think that's wrong at this point. Be pretty.
Because I think right now, if you get to 11 wins, if not 12, you secure the Central.
Well, everybody else in the division is terrible. So
it's god awful.
Yeah. So
we're tank division minus the Vikings this year.
Yeah, certainly would agree with that assessment. Let us know what you think. Find us on Twitter at WarmingHouseDen or at HuskiesWarmingHousePodcast.com. For Nick Maxon, I'm Noah Grant, and we will see you soon in the den.
One-timer, come in, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Pervix!
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies alongside
Dwayne Kaprizov in for a chance to win it! He scores! Kirill the Thrill is for real! Welcome to the NHL!
Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.